Well, Doc told me he was not going to be here, so it's 9 o'clock. We can get going then. So I'll call the property committee meeting for March to order at 9:01. Certification of open meeting law requirements has been met. Adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting. Those were sent to you by Paul.
Move to approve as presented.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. Anybody find any changes that need to be made to those minutes? Okay, hearing none then. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the previous month's meeting signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, then we have this public comment period. Anybody from the public that is watching this meeting, now is the time. If you'd like to make a comment, you can call, and our number is 715-538-1770. We'll give you a couple of minutes to take care of that.
You? I do. Make sure everybody else does.
What's that, an agenda amenda?
Agenda amendment.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, it's amended. There's a resolution. What's that?
You have 15 items on that one?
16 with the adjournment. There was a resolution about a new x-ray machine for the front door.
Oh, that's the only difference. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only difference.
I just took this one off the website before it came down. So.
Thank you. Doesn't look like anybody's up on TV either.
Nope.
No, that thing's like, how old is it, Dan? 20 years? It's at least that old.
Oh, this is the resolution.
Somebody want to give Jeremy a call? He can update us on some of this.
Are you up to that already?
You're going to be next.
So we moved the old one into the new part then.
Okay, we've given people a couple of minutes. If you'd still like to make a call, please give us a call at 715-538-1770.
Thank you.
We will move on with the other items on the agenda. Jeremy's not here yet, so we'll jump over the memorabilia from the old building. Okay.
He's coming in that door.
Oh, there he is. Anything on memorabilia? We're up to you already.
It's like magic.
Sorry, I was in the other meeting. Hold on.
What other meeting?
The building stuff. Memorabilia. So last month we discussed putting an ad in the paper for that. Shortly after that meeting, it was brought to my attention that there may be some health issues present in that building. So I worked with Kurt, and we had a asbestos abatement done in that building. The report hasn't been presented yet, but we did get some preliminary things back that there is some asbestos in certain areas of that building. Okay. So I didn't feel comfortable at the time putting an ad out or having my guys go over and cut into the floor adhesives or any of that stuff at the moment. So as it sits right now, until we get that report back, that's kind of put a hold on the demo.
Okay.
Until the abatement is completed. At that point, once I'm completely made aware of where everything is and what could be potentially hazardous, and again, by evaluating what the building looks like, we can pull up some more floors and I can make some things available. But as it sits right now, not so much.
And there isn't a lot of stuff. It's probably going to be pieces of the floor.
It's just going to be floor pieces, and it's probably going to be pieces of the floor that was new a handful of years ago as opposed to the floor that was existing prior to that. Because most of the benches have been cut out prior to us taking possession of the building. There's only the vertical pieces as opposed to the horizontal seats are all been cut out. Most of you guys have been through the building, you kind of seen what that looked like. So I can get some things, but there's not going to be a lot for the general public anyway, until maybe the building is knocked down and some people want some bricks or something like that. But like I said, hopefully optimistic, but that's about where it sits right now. There's not going to be a lot for the general public at this point because of the potential for a health risk in giving out parts of that building to people of the general public.
So if you do get a report that it's safe, then you would put something?
Then I
in
would try to do something that would make it available to the general public, but given the fact that we know that there is stuff there until I'm 100% certain where it all is, whether it's in the caulking, the floor adhesive, the windows, the light fixtures, stuff like that, then as far as I know, it's not in the walls, or anything like that, or in the existing ceiling tiles or anything. It's just going to be in some of the old parts of the building that would have to be abated before the building was smashed down anyway, so.
Because that's going to move along quickly. Aren't they talking about maybe even starting demolishing it in March yet?
Yeah, so, yeah.
That's, like I said, that was the original time frame. But then with this, that was from the last meeting, but then with this abatement process, having to be started, they put all that stuff on hold just a little bit. So Kurt is here in the building. We're at the meeting in the Trempealeau room at the moment too, and I think they'll be here after this meeting or concurrently with this one at 10:30 for the building oversight stuff, so.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes,
about?
Chuck?
Yes, go ahead.
I have, when you say, Jeremy, when you say abatement, how would you abate floor adhesive? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what is involved, or window caulking. I mean, does that mean taking out all the window caulking?
That would mean that Kurt would end up hiring a company before the demo crew comes in to remove anything that would be contaminated with asbestos, whether it's hiring them to come in and cut out any of the caulking or sealing that floor adhesive before it was. You couldn't just go in with like a backhoe and start smashing it into pieces. They'd have to do something to it prior to that. If it was old insulation, all that stuff, they'd have to go in Tyvek suits and respirators and then slowly cut that, separate it into different hazmat bags that wouldn't go into the regular trash. So again, we know that there is stuff present, but I don't think there is an abundance of it in this particular building. I know there was some in the old building that was already torn down. And again, that was just another crew or another company going in prior to the demo company going in to remove that. So you're not breaking it up into small particles when you hit it with the backhoe and spreading that throughout the air.
When will we have the report on it?
We were hoping to have it before today's meeting because all the stuff was done early last week. Like I said, I got an email from Kurt yesterday that the company that did it was hoping to have the report today. He may still have it by later this afternoon, potentially tomorrow. And Kurt can elaborate more on that this morning because he's the one dealing with that company, whereas I was more just the liaison to let them in.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Jeremy? Okay, Tim, you can give us our IT update.
Can you hear me now?
If the red light's on.
Is red on? Is that good?
You're on now.
All right. The IT department, we met last week and went through some things. One of the things we are currently working on is a disaster recovery plan. We're meeting again tomorrow to finalize the elements. And then I talked to the local emergency planning committee yesterday, and they would be the first stop for getting approval of the disaster recovery plan. Since the emergency operations manager's on that, and then they are the ones responsible if things go sideways here at the county. So I thought that would be the committee to take our disaster recovery plan for IT infrastructure to. And then once we've both produced what we think is a good document, we'll come back to property committee, if that's okay with the property committee. Just felt like, why should I have you waste your time and then go to local emergency planning committee? I hate that name, by the way. And then have them dice it up differently. So.
Okay.
In talking with Paul about these devices that we've rolled out, in order to go in a more paperless direction, with in discussions with staff, they found it was going to be really difficult and cumbersome to try and figure out a way for Paul's people to distribute packets to you in a way that we could keep track of, and that you would have a nice, safe place to put your notes or whatever else that might come up in a Freedom of Information request. So we're recommending that we spend the extra $1,300 a year to get a regular government license like the one John Ossen has. That way you could back up data to the network, you'd have the functionality of a license, and then that every email you have would also get archived on Microsoft that way. And then that way we can set up folders for you, and then when Paul's got property committee documents ready, he just takes a PDF and drops it in a folder, and then it's there for you to grab and use. And then it simplifies things and it tracks it. So I don't know if you want to take action on that right away to approve my spending that extra $1,300. If I should take that, where would you like to go with that?
You don't see it on the agenda.
It's just up, we've got time, but I wanted to get it in front of you. So whatever process you want to follow.
Do we need a project initiation form for that?
You got it in your budget, don't you?
I do not. I have you have what's called a kiosk license right now. It costs $17 a year, but all that it gives you rights to is your email. I can't have you join Teams meetings without inviting you as a guest. I can't give you data space and all that stuff. So it would be an existing product. You're just getting a higher license level.
So I don't see that on the agenda. We'd probably have to put it on the agenda and write up a resolution for it. Is that what you're thinking, Paul?
Or would you prefer a PIF?
Well, this is something you can just make up a agenda or a resolution and they sign it right before the next county board meeting or something?
Well, for the money part, you're gonna have to go to exec finance. So probably if we get a resolution together, give it to exec, and then you guys meet in April, early April, we can have it on the April agenda.
That works for me. That should be fine. I just wanted to.
Because that's an all-day meeting, we'd have more time then.
I'm hoping we're gonna be done by noon.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, yeah, so if you want to write that up, we'll take care of it at exec
Okay,
finance
thank
and
you.
then come back to property with it.
Let me make a note on that, please.
I gotta know, but I'll have to talk to you how to word it.
Paul, you're okay with the idea?
Yeah.
You're okay with that?
Boy, that's going to save you lots of work
Well,
over.
what I'm doing, my thing keeps coming back on.
They turned it on out there. I turned it off and they turned it back on, so.
Yeah, it's been, he came out, I didn't touch anything.
Anyway,
Somebody else is
okay,
walking around.
what I'm doing now, the people that aren't coming to county board, that are remote, I'm just taking a file of every resolution, everything, the agenda, the sales tax, everything like that. It gets to be a pretty good size package. And I forward that with the WebEx invite and all that, so the ones that I know aren't gonna be coming. So lately it's
eventually
just been
the-
Michelle, Sally, and Beth. But Beth's back now, so Sally and Michelle will get a packet like that.
And eventually that could go to every county board member.
Oh,
It'll
yeah,
save
yep.
you getting a packet together, and then us, instead of having a whole folder full of papers, we
have
have
it all.
access to it anytime in the future.
And everybody will just be sitting there with their laptop on their desk, and you can go
Mhm.
through everything.
And my team.
IT?
Yeah.
Okay.
It brought up again this morning while we were doing audit, Beth was wondering, she thought there's something wrong with the computer because she can't print off it. But none of these computers like Kim has, can
You
you
have to-
run directly to a printer and print from.
You
Correct.
probably have to add a printer to them.
No, you just have to put
They're
it in a
just-
pin it to send it to whatever
Oh,
other
okay.
printer or whatever. You can
Okay.
send to another source and then print it, but
You can't print from the computer.
you can't print from this computer.
If you're not connected to the network, you can't print to the network. So,
Never even tried.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
If
didn't
we
know
can
that
keep
either.
board members from printing stuff, that works for me.
Yeah, that's pretty effective, right?
I really like this computer for typing on it.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
so much handier than a regular.
It's got
And
nice
I
big
really liked
keys.
it, and I typed up a letter for the Wisconsin 40 and 8, my newsletter, and I couldn't print it, and I thought, oh, wow, that did a lot of good.
Yeah, so baby steps, because once we upgrade the license, that resolution gets approved, and we add that, and we come up with, we work with Paul's office, and we get a nice process going. Then later, we're going to want to start working on the security elements to have you use the VPN and stuff, but baby steps, all in time. Learn to use the device, learn to figure out a way to make it paperless as you can, and we'll keep working through the bumps. It'll take time. So, let's see, next on the list, shortfall for 2020. IT department went over by about $10,000 last year, but about $18,000 of unplanned COVID spending occurred that was outside of resolutions. It occurred in March, April, May, June, and I didn't seek a resolution to go back for something I'd already expended. I didn't quite understand the rule on that, so that was my mistake. But I just wanted you to be aware of it. I don't know what action happens if eventually we have to.
I'll weigh in. I haven't done my overruns yet this year, so that'll come up in that, and then there will be a resolution that goes to exec finance and then to county board to cover those overruns.
April.
I'm hoping April.
Not guaranteeing anything.
I'm not guaranteeing anything yet.
But yeah, my budget did go over by about 10 grand.
Okay, well, but that's expected with this COVID. You ran into all kinds of extra things that no one foresaw.
I'm kind of surprised it was that low a number, to tell you the truth, so.
Okay.
Okay, then an update on IT's portion of the building project for the Justice Center. We met last week as a team and basically chunked out the project because we couldn't come up with a proper scope or what the different problems we're going to try and solve or what the solutions we're aiming for. So we broke it out into pieces. We have the physical elements is one entire category, and that would be power, cabling, racking, patch panels, punch down panels, things like that. So that's one project. 10 gig backbone is probably going to be a requirement to connect the new to the old and the TV studio to wherever they are, whether it's down here or up there or wherever they end up getting moved. So that's one entire project. We're calling it the virtual infrastructure, which would be the servers, the storage, the data migration to that servers and storage set up in the new data center. That's an entire project. Security and surveillance systems is another project, and we'd be bringing Jeremy into that discussion about the problems and the solutions and the scope that we want to create there. And then external connections, and we'd also be bringing Jeremy into that conversation, how we're going to connect to the outside world. We also have involvements where we're working with other people who will be defining things on phones, intercoms and alarms, the Polycom video conferencing system, state networks, Wisconsin or WTCO. The Sheriff's Office conference room is going to have a lot of media and capability in it, so we'll be involved in that. The county boardroom is probably going to have a lot of media and technology in it. We'll be involved in that. Jail security system and cable TV. So once we get, we whiteboard out what we can create in the way of a scope and solutions and problems that we're noting, we'll put together a document and I'll bring it back to the committee in April so that we can participate in a process where we figure out if we're going in the right direction. We don't need a budget number at this point, but I'm still bugging Kurt every time I see him. What's my number? I don't sleep well worrying about that number.
Are you going to have enough staff to do all this?
We are making plans for the possibility that we might have to come up with something to help do the day-to-day stuff, because if you're going to have a proper data center and do this great big project over the next 18 months, the team that's currently working here really needs to be involved in it so they can maintain it. If we hired out the work on the building and all the stuff we have to do there, well, then we won't know how to maintain it. Okay. So if we could find a way to get somebody to do all our other work.
Your daily work, and then your people can concentrate
right
on the new facets of it.
So we've been interviewing vendors, finding out what their offerings are, in equipment, software solutions, project management, IT support, any number of things. So we're going through various vendors and finding out what they can do for us. So once we do define the problems and the solutions and the scope and what we're going to need to bring in, then we can start putting bids together and we know who to go to.
Okay.
So that's all I had.
Any questions for Tim? Well, thank you very much. Moving on then to our next item, the resolution of the carryover funds for the CAD mapping project.
Yep. So these were projects that were approved for the 2020 budget year. They were project initiation forms that was approved in 2019. Both projects got held up by COVID and everything else that went sideways, and some were dependent on other projects. The mapping, CAD mapping project was dependent on the Esri mapping project. That had to get done first. We have that done, so we're now ready to move into the next phase. So we've paid for portions of it, but the largest chunk of the interface cost with the vendor still needs to be expended. So I would need the money carried forward from last year's budget in the amount stated in the resolution.
Okay, so I'll read the resolution and then we can act on that. So carryover funds for CAD mapping project from 2020 to 2021. Whereas the Trempealeau County Information Technology Department was unable to complete a key project in 2020 due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, and whereas the key requirements to implement the CAD mapping project in dispatch are now complete, and whereas the Information Technology Department will need to purchase the previous approved interface and maintenance services in 2021 for the CAD mapping interface, and whereas the approved amount from 2020 was and remains an estimate of $17,825 to implement, and now be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors approves the carryover of $17,825 from the IT 2020 budget account 101.51450.210 to the 2021 budget for the technology upgrade in the dispatch mapping interface, introduced by Property and Executive Finance Committee, and it was acted on by Executive Finance Committee, Chuck Wallach, George Brandt, Tim Ziegler, John Austin, and Richard Sasha.
Move to adopt.
Okay, move to accept. And we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion or questions for anyone?
One question. This involves cooperating with land records. The project initiation form is double printed here. I was wondering, what is this doing? And what percent is done? Is it half done? Is it a quarter done?
The interface itself is 100% not done. The portion that is, what this allows us to do is take the product of our land records department and use it in dispatch. So if they need to add a layer to the county maps that includes snowmobile trails so dispatch can locate somebody if their call's in, then they can just create that layer, and then it's available to the dispatchers on a map that they can use. So yeah, it fixes, right now the map that they're using in dispatch is a free one from Google, and I don't think dispatch is very happy with it because it doesn't accurately locate. So.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Tim? Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, sign. Okay, that motion passes. Do you have a,
I've
okay,
got
you
the
got a
good one,
copy first?
Because this is on the agenda for Monday night's county board meeting.
Okay. So, moving on then to our next resolution, and that is the carryover funds for Pro QA interface project from 20, some more carryover funds. So I'll read the resolution. Whereas the Trempealeau County Information Technology Department was unable to complete a key project in 2020 due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas the key requirements to implement the Pro QA interface project in dispatch are in process, and whereas the technology department will need to purchase the previous approved interface and maintenance services in 2021. for the Pro Phoenix Pro QA interface, and whereas the approved amount from 2020 was and remains an estimated $14,868 to implement, and now be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors approves the carryover of $14,868 from IT 2020 budget account 101.51450.210 to the 2021 budget for the technology upgrade in the Dispatch Pro QA interface, introduced by Property Committee and Executive Finance Committee.
This one is partially done. A good chunk of it was paid to the priority dispatch people. This is a portion of the project.
Okay, we motion to get this on the floor then?
So moved.
Okay, motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Okay, now, any questions or discussion on the project?
Tim answered my question.
The answer to your question?
Before I even asked it.
I saw him looking.
Is there gonna be enough money in your carryover funds to cover the total project?
No,
No?
I'm now $42,000 over budget for last year.
When you were 10, we just took 30 some thousand.
I was expecting to be much higher, Paul.
So this is part of what you're expecting to be part of your
Well,
deficit
yeah,
then?
I'm not happy being 42 over, but it was an extraordinary year.
We have a real sorting out process at this year's
Yeah.
budget meeting.
Yes, this will be interesting. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that resolution is passed also.
This one will be going to April County Board because it has to still go to exec finance.
Right.
Okay, Jeremy, you have maintenance update.
Hold on, Paul, did you send out the amended agenda?
You're after.
I didn't see I don't have an amended agenda, so.
Yeah, you're the next item on
It
it.
is on there.
Okay, perfect.
It's not on the
You
web.
got your
but it's on-
update and then your resolution.
That's perfectly fine, I'm just making sure. So first of all, with the maintenance department, I'm gonna jump right back over to that old building real quick. I was reached out to by the fire department here in town, wanting to know if they could use that building before it is demoed for training purposes. I did speak to Kurt about it, just to make sure that there wasn't gonna be an issue with, them doing any sort of destruction in that building before the demo happens. Anything, if the fire department is allowed, it would be after any abatement happened in that building before, and then we would try to schedule any training they wanted to do, let's say the weekend prior to the demolition. What they're looking at doing is setting some smoke off in there, no fires, just a smoke machine to do some training for that. Door breaching, potentially cutting a hole in the roof, doing a few things, but nothing that would be detriment to any of the surrounding people that live near the building. Again, no fires, no DNR would be needed to be notified or anything like that. So I'm just reaching out to see if property has an issue, if I tell them they can or cannot use that building prior to demolition.
Got a comment.
As long as they take everything with them, so there's nothing left.
I have one comment.
Go ahead, Tim.
This is an observation. When the healthcare center abandoned the old building and the sheriff's department came in and used it for training, I was brand new on the board. I got several really angry phone calls about that. And I'm trying to wonder, I'm just wondering about the public relations aspect of doing that. People complaining about you don't know what you're going to do with the old building. What if you're going to renovate it? There's been no decision made about it. Why are you going in there and shooting up the place? And I guess they were shooting or something in there. I don't know. I didn't go and inspect the place. That's what people told me. And running around and breaking windows and all this kind of stuff. So I don't think that would apply. I think everybody is aware that the old gym is going to be demolished but I guess I would just be cautious about trying to find some acceptable way of presenting this, or I don't know, I'm just a little nervous when you say training and getting the fire department in there.
I could give it, the fire department, the direction that they would, announce on social media that if, you're in the area, you notice X amount of fire trucks at this old building, that there's training going on in town, so nobody is, let's say, calling 911 for any
that would be
given,
good.
any
Correct.
given reason. Considering, like you stated, though, that the building would technically be torn down hopefully within a week of the training taking place. It's not like we're doing anything to that building that is going to hurt it more than what we're going to end up doing to it shortly thereafter.
Right. Just a flag went up, that's all.
Randy?
Yeah, just, have you talked to corporate counsel on that to find out if there's any possible liability, because it's being used for training and not an actual fire, that if somebody does get hurt in there, that they can't come back on county for...
I have not brought it up to him, so I can bring it up to Rick and send him an email looking at the liability aspects of that too.
Okay.
What was the date?
Date is tentative. It would depend on demolition date being set and then having any training done shortly before.
Whatever the fire department does, it's going to be very, very conspicuous around here. So we should just be sure that everybody knows what's going on and everybody's clear about it.
So if Corp Counsel has no issues, would property have any issues? As long as, let's say, again, we made it publicly aware of what was going on through social media accounts and the fact.
I'm personally okay with it.
I'm good with it as long as they follow like what Tim said and make sure that there's no liability on the county for letting them use the building, because it is a training purpose and it's not an actual fire that they're dealing with, so.
A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, and
Get some kind of
it's good for
training.
training purposes for the fire department. I don't think anybody has any issues with the fire department training part of it. It's just like Tim said, that everybody's aware around here that
Okay. Well, then what I'll
we're
do,
transparent as heck about what we're doing with it, so.
so what I will do then today is I will reach out to Rick, and if there are no issues with them, I will email property committee as a whole to let them know what Rick's status was, and then once I get a date, I will make sure that the fire department puts that out, and I will also email property committee so you're aware of what date things are taking place.
I guess if you're looking for a motion for that, I'll make that motion.
Okay. I'll second it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Like I said, the big difference here is we know that that building's gonna be gone in a few days
Yeah.
after this.
Right, the decision, at that point with the healthcare center, they moved out, but there was no decision about the old building.
Yeah, exactly.
And over for a year, I mean,
Yeah.
it might have been 2 years, it just stood there. So,
So any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, good. Okay, you must have some other
So
stuff.
for the rest of the maintenance department updates here,
Okay.
so I did start getting prices together for one of the projects that was approved for my department in repairing, replacing the southern sidewalk. That was one that, if you noticed it at all this year, we did have cones out again because the water floods that freezes over and becomes an issue. So the prices that I'm gathering now is there's a small bank of lawn on the southern side of the sidewalk that goes between the sidewalk and the street. We are looking at removing that lawn, just adding more concrete there, angled down, so that everything drains. The other portion that we are looking at actually replacing this year, which is not one that I was hoping would last longer than it has, but when you pull into the parking lot, the northern entrance to this parking lot is falling apart. I actually have a few chunks of concrete that are up in the rocks over here by dispatch now, because between snow, plows, freezing on and off again, that concrete is cracked and is falling apart. So I do need, because it's a pretty good tripping hazard, which would be the sidewalk for the general public, and it's not all that great for vehicles. So looking at replacing that, but again, eventually that is going to be, again, demolished at some point in time because it's going to end up becoming part of the parking lot. But because of a safety issue, I'm trying to build it into the same project of doing the sidewalks and not going to be asking for any more money. Just trying to do it as cost-effective as possible. For the next, that's got to last at least another 2 years, potentially, whereas the sidewalk's going to be going forward. So that project is starting, but again, I've already got the money set aside for that from last year's budget approval for this year. So we're working on that. We did had some welding issues that need to get taken care of in the jail. We started those today, and we're going to be doing those over the next few weeks in small pieces that are just, some of them are related to the age of some of the units, and some of them are related to some of the issues that were brought up in the paper this week due to mental illness of some of the inmates and stuff like that. So some damages that have been done inside of the jail, so we're repairing some of those periodically. But I don't anticipate that to go, above and beyond the normal vendor-related budget this year so far. Everything else has been good to go. That we did have okay, let me step back. We did have an issue with the chiller yesterday. We did finally warm up enough that the air conditioner was starting to run for the next few days, or the last few days going forward. This week it shouldn't run on again, but we got that corrected in the day. But at the same time, we found that the generator was failing again. This time it was a very easy fix, but there's a little 15 amp fuse in a fuse holder that just wouldn't seat anymore, and every time the generator would run, that fuse would pop out and kill the generator. So a 15-cent fix, killed a $200,000 generator, but it was down for half the day yesterday. I made dispatch aware once we were, just in case anything were happened, because we had thunderstorms slated just in case. But we've got that fixed, and we ran it for a bit, and nothing shook free, nothing shook loose, so everything is good to go on there. But I know that generator will be addressed, with the new building going forward. There's a few options that have been presented for that. So hopefully, again, we're just making that one last as long as possible so that we're good to go. But no other issues, no other concerns. The only thing that goes hand in hand with the new building project is I did speak to Amy Franzen earlier this week to some issues that I spoke with you guys about last month, was staffing for my department once this building is completed. And as it sits right now, we're looking at least one more full-time custodian, potentially 1.5 custodial positions, and then potentially some limited term employees when we find out exactly what we are going to be doing with this building. Because if my department will be responsible for shifting all of the stuff in the county clerk's office from one location to another, all the departments that may be moving, if we are going to be responsible for moving all that equipment as my department as opposed to hiring out, I'll be looking at doing some limited term employees to help with that. Nothing's set in stone on that now. Everything is pretty fluid until I find out specifics on time frames and location moves. So I got nothing else for maintenance at the moment.
Anyone have questions for Jeremy?
I got one quick question for you, Jeremy. With this concrete out here in this lot that you're talking about, do you have any idea about when they're planning on closing the street down for the construction phase of this, or is it something that is
No,
going to
not
be-
set in stone that I've gotten yet. Like I said, everything is, I have a rough timeline. I think all of us have been sent that at one point in time, but I know it's all very fluid. It's, it's roughly, but I know that the main premise of what I'm looking at hearing is once the demo of this is done, then they might start doing foundations, on and grading and all this other stuff, but I have no idea if that street's going to be closed in 6 months or 18 months, and that's something I was going to follow up with Kurt this morning. I just haven't had a chance because I didn't see him until the other building meeting started this morning, and I came here before that one was finished.
Well, I'm guessing during the demo phase, they'll have to close it off while they tear the high school down.
More than likely, yeah. This one here is
So
just
I'm wondering
more.
if it's gonna remain closed during the rest of the duration of the construction project, and if that's the case, do we even need to be putting any money into that out here at all?
Well, as it sits, that would still be the main parking lot for the employees to still be getting
Well, will
into
they be
for the
able to
time
use
being,
it when
because
it's
we can't
closed?
close the parking lot quite yet, as far as I know.
Yeah,
And even after hours, it's still gonna be a sidewalk right now for maybe a month, maybe a year. I have no idea, but the general public's still walking there, let's say even after hours. In the evening, there is 2 or 3 big chunks that are, 6 to 8 inches deep, missing out of the concrete. So even we could do some patchwork on it, and going forward, there's not gonna be any plows, hitting it at all, and that would suffice. But again, this is a project going to be built into an existing project that I already have, and it shouldn't be requiring any more money. So when I get the answers to that, I can let you know too, because this won't be done or even started by the time the next property meeting starts, because this is just me getting prices as it sits right now.
Okay.
Something that just occurred to me when you brought that up is employee parking during this construction. Where are all those people gonna go?
Over by the ball,
Way
baseball diamond.
over.
Yeah,
Good exercise.
You drive by there most days and it's pretty full already.
yeah, and
Take
that's
all
what
the
we
land
were.
management vehicles and,
That's what we were discussing before I came here in the other meeting, was the layout, the parking spaces, the style of parking of the new building as it's going, but the process from the beginning through the first 6 months, that's going to be a challenge, I'm sure. So, because we have 14 county-owned vehicles that park in this main lot, plus I have 4 reserve spots that are for state employees, judge, visiting judge, district attorney, and then 1 more floating. We have the bulk of our handicap parking legally is back here in this back parking lot. We have 1 on the side street, but, so yeah, there'll be some challenges going forward with that, and there's a few dates that I need as well before the, parking, the demo of my garage, a few things that I need to know that aren't set in stone that I haven't been made aware of yet.
Dan, yep, go ahead.
Do we have a written agreement with the city yet on the proposed abandonment of this block of Park Street? And if not, are we working on it?
I don't know if we have verbal for sure. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, and I spoke with the mayor about it, but experience tells me it's
But yeah, it'd
a
be
good
nice to
idea to have it in writing.
I'd agree with Dan.
And as things progress, maybe we should be working on that. That would be something that Rick would have to be involved in.
A
Because
formal resolution.
my assumption is it's going to have to be binding legally. I know the city wants the county to pay for relocating any of the utilities that are in that block. And it's my understanding that while there are some utilities there, it's not as bad as it could be. Not everything runs down that block.
I did see green paint down the middle of the street, so either a water main or a sewer main or something's going down through
Yeah,
there.
but we should have something in writing from the Whitehall City Council
Yeah.
that says they're.
We don't.
Wasn't there something that they were gonna change that water line anyway?
Yep, I think so.
So
But
that shouldn't be a cost to us.
we can contact them and just find out where they are on it.
Would this resolution then be initiated by the property committee or county board?
I thought the city, because
Well,
the city's going to abandon the street. Then are they giving it to us or what?
Well,
like
I,
Dan says, it's all verbal. I mean.
Yeah.
yeah.
We should have something in
It's
concrete copy.
something
Good
that
question for
our
Kurt today, 'cause
project
he's overseeing everything.
depends on, so I think we need to move forward with this now and get it done.
We'll have to bring that up with Kurt. We really should have a
Yep.
written contract about it. Right.
Yep.
Okay, Jeremy, anything else then?
That's 2 things.
Anybody else have questions for Jeremy? Okay, good. And then the next part is your resolution. Paul gave us this resolution when we came in this morning. It is a resolution to transfer $30,000 from general fund to maintenance for purchase of a new X-ray machine for the front door security screening. Whereas the security screening equipment at the front door of the courthouse is in need of replacement due to its age, its failing components, and the scarcity of parts available for repairs, and whereas the entrance needs to have proper and working equipment in order to adequately screen all individuals entering the courthouse, and whereas the purchase of a new X-ray machine is necessary in order to meet the current standards set forth by the county board to ensure weapons do not enter the courthouse, and whereas the maintenance department will coordinate the purchase of and installation of the new machine to be used at all security checkpoint and to be moved to the new location upon completion of the new building. Now be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors hereby approves a transfer of $30,000 from the general fund into account 101.51600.314 for the purchase and installation of a new X-ray machine for security screening at the entrance to the building.
And then I have a few words on that, just to help you form questions.
Well,
We have,
Oh, sorry.
Move to accept.
Okay, motion by Tim, second by Dan to accept the resolution. Okay, now Jeremy,
The reason that this is being brought forth is the current X-ray machine at the front door has been giving error codes the past, I don't know, let's say month and a half. The error codes that when I looked them up, I reached out to the manufacturer of the X-ray machine, and they no longer make security X-ray machines. They do medical, but they do not do security anymore. So then I reached out to the company that, according to the invoices and purchases, that Dan Schreiner had purchased something at one point in time for it from a company called L3 or 3L Electronics. He had at one point, or at least his name was on the invoice, I had purchased it and had a repair done by a company 3 or 4 years ago. Neither one of those companies service our style of machine anymore. So I did find a company that does service them, but our particular machine, the code that it's giving as an error, the unit, the part of the machine that's going bad, they don't manufacture anymore. So you're basically trying to buy it from a junkyard, and none of the junkyard or scrap dealers that these people deal with have that particular part in place. So I did reach out to find out what it would cost to, let's say, rent a machine. And renting of the machine was a $2,500 delivery fee and $1,000 a month for a machine that's smaller than the one that we currently have. The prices that I'm looking at now range anywhere between $22,000 and $29,000, which is what I was putting out for $30,000 for to cover the cost of the unit delivery, and it would also include disposal of the current unit that we have, since it has a radioactive elements in it. I wanted to make sure that it included that. It would cover 3 years. All three of the machines I'm looking at would cover 3 years of parts and 1 year of labor for any issues that were to arise with it, delivery and setup. But like I said, the county board has pretty much mandated that we have the security at the front door for weapons screening. So if that machine is failing, it hasn't failed completely yet, but we need to get ahead of it because we don't want to be dead in the water if the machine fails and we don't have a plan in place to get that replaced.
go ahead.
One question, does anybody have like an idea of how old this actual screening machine is currently that we're trying to replace?
The machine was manufactured in 2001.
2001, so
Correct.
she's got 10 years out of her.
Well,
20 years.
20 years out of her. I understand that it was purchased for a particular trial at one point in time.
Yeah.
And it was mothballed for a while, and then it was brought back out again when county board, judge, sheriff, district attorney set up the plan to put security at the front door. So, I don't know if the machine was purchased new or purchased used at the time, so I don't know exactly how long the county.
It was new.
It was new, so we've had ownership of this 20 years. I've personally, for my department, have put, a couple $1,000s into repairs in it over the 6 years that I've been here, not including maybe what Bruce had put in prior to me being here on that machine. So it's time, it's met its life cycle, its life expectancy of the machine, and so like I said, it's just time to replace it if we're going to continue going forward with it.
On the plus side of this is probably something we can turn into FEMA for the COVID relief, so.
Yeah, and my thought process on that, which I think I spoke to you about, is if it's for FEMA for COVID-related stuff, we need to make sure that the deputies, employees at the front door are having limited interaction with the public. Other than that, without this bag, there's going to be more physical interaction, pat down, searching through bags, searching through everything else. So this is going to be a way to keep physical distance between the deputies and the public, but still doing an accurate security screening.
Any other questions or comments?
We will have to bring up the fact that it's 20 years old
Yep.
at the board. I mean, we've had it that long. It doesn't matter if it was in mothballs for a while. Everything gets antiquated so fast that.
And another key element is this can be moved to the new building too. Anybody else? Okay, all those then in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, resolution is passed. Okay, our next item then is the department moves, meet with department heads. Is that you, Tim, or?
I'll be right back.
Probably just a short memo because the meeting is tomorrow. Yeah, the meeting's
Okay, okay.
The follow-up one, because they did this.
The initials,
We did it once.
they initially met with them, and then tomorrow they're gonna get together and try to come up with some type of a plan.
I think I can point out that valuable lessons were learned by bringing in outside agency to come and conduct interviews with people, because the information that was shared with me turned out to be shockingly different from what they told people from Venture in some cases. So,
Well, that is good, because at least somebody with no stake in the game is making the decision.
no, they're not making the decision, they're asking the questions.
Yeah, they're asking the question.
We don't want other people making the
But to
decisions.
gather the data and come up with recommendations.
Yeah, I think it was an important lesson in how the world works. You don't always tell your peers exactly what you want, but you'll tell some perfect stranger.
Okay, so nothing else then about more meeting with, more meat to it will be tomorrow then?
Yep.
Okay, our next item then is the discussion regarding the annex building. Was that you, John, that wanted?
Kind of brought up to me by Randy, so we just threw it in, just for informational purposes more than anything.
Okay. And just a little background on this is that annex building, when they decided that the healthcare center was going to move their work to the old healthcare center building, the annex became available. And the property, or the healthcare center did offer that building to the county at that time. And the county chose not to take it. That was brought before us. They were scared of the maintenance, and now what's happened, what has it been now, about a year and a half, almost 2 years, that the healthcare center has been doing maintenance on it and taking care of it for the winter. And so that's where we're at with that. But trying to sell it, yes. And COVID has really put the brakes on that too. Nobody wants to jump in anything now with COVID. But it was offered to the county when they decided that they were going to move out of it.
So what's the question right now then, John?
I guess I'm not
Well,
sure.
Basically, Randy brought up that basically the county does own the building. It doesn't really belong to the healthcare center.
Healthcare, yeah.
It was built with federal tax dollars.
So we still have to decide what to do? Is that what it is?
No, as of right now,
If we want to utilize it as part of this, because we're losing this over here, or what do we even want to consider doing anything with it?
I guess I don't know.
I know when we started the property committee, the only one that was really excited about going over there was UW Ag Extension, I think was the one they were really excited about having it. And the health department had a list of things that they wanted to change for it to happen, and that wasn't feasible with, that would have been a pretty heavy cost.
Well, and, because I was on the health, or on the, healthcare, or the
The health department.
health department, not the health department, what do I want to say now?
Trumbull County Hospital.
The County Hospital Board is just funny, because people expressed interest, and all of a sudden, we take them over there, and all of a sudden, everything had to be changed, and
They basically wanted a different building.
because, so what was it, one of them? At one time, we talked about bringing two of them over, well, then the proposition was, we need another entryway.
Yep, you needed a separate
And there was
reception desk, you
new
needed-
sidewalks and everything else. So once they walked through it, then it changed their mind considerably. So there was no action, it was just an update for you, Randy, or?
Well, that and, ADRC, if wherever they decide to go, if that's a possibility for them, because this building across the street is going to be sold, and we already currently have that. Is that something that somebody still wants to use, like UW Extension, and open up some free space over here for additional do we still want to pursue that as part of the property committee? Or do we just want to let it go? I mean,
I'd be in favor of letting it go. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about a $3.5 million renovation here in this building.
right.
We should be able to bring ADRC back over in this building and find adequate room for everybody. We're freeing up a lot of space. Why on earth get involved with the white elephant over there?
And then again, we have everything in one location. People travel from all over the county. They don't want to come to Whitehall to do half their business and then drive over to Independence to finish up. And like you said, Tim, with this new building, hopefully things will work out.
Yeah, and that's
Jeremy?
pretty much what I wanted to speak to as well, was, the health department moved out of there for a reason too, so if we were to move some of our departments in, you're looking at I'd be coming to you with a substantial request for heating, for ventilation, for air conditioning. Correct, the generator over there is also.
Yeah, that was bad too.
Yeah, there's quite a few, there's quite a bit of money that would need to be spent before, and that's not even including the remodeling, just repairing and replacing some of the aged out units that are sitting there. So there would be a significant cost to put anything over there, and then again, like you just stated, then which department is going to be the most effective out there that doesn't interact with anybody here?
Well, and there is some cosmetic work that has to be done there. Some of the ceiling tiles need to be replaced in certain rooms, and
Yeah, it has worked out favorably for the health department the past few months as they've been doing vaccines and, shots and stuff out there. We've gone out to help do some basic maintenance while the health department is there. But Bill from the health department is still doing the bulk of the maintenance, and they're still paying the bills on that building. So there is still some cosmetic things that would definitely need to be done that we've tried to help with, but it's not move-in ready for a department at all, so.
I think the reason it came to me was because, result of the ownership. It sounded like originally like the healthcare center built it or something, which they didn't.
It is county.
But they've been doing all the maintenance on it, and then the question came up, if it's sold, where does the money go from the sale? Does it go to the county or does it go to the healthcare center? So that's kind of what I'd like this committee to decide. Is this, since the health department or the Trempealeau County Hospital has paid all the maintenance and stuff on it over these years, it probably should go back to them.
that's what I thought the understanding was when we didn't accept it, that they would get any money that was obtained from the sale of the building.
I just wanted to make sure that something don't come up later and say, well, that should go to the county and don't go to the health department. So it should be decided somewhere.
Well, it did raise some eyebrows when they saw it on the building, because I got calls from people at the healthcare center wondering, are they gonna take the money from us now? So they were worried about it, but so. Okay,
Do you know where that resolution is right now? Did everybody get to sign the one?
I don't think you brought it around yet.
Well, I don't have it in
I
my
signed it, give it to
I
you, you
gave
gave
it
it
to
to
Tim.
Tim.
I don't have it. I don't remember where it went for me.
You mean the new one you just brought up for
The
30,000?
last one about the No,
30,000?
I don't have it up here at
I
all.
don't think you ever had it.
We
Well,
never,
I did have it. but
I signed it, I gave it to
And I
Dan,
Put it
gave
right
it to
there.
Tim, Tim signed it, maybe flipped it over.
You better stop pointing at me, Dan.
We're pointing at
I was
Tim.
pointing there, that would be pointing at you.
we haven't seen it up here
There's
though.
nothing here. I mean, if it's a piece of paper, I don't have it.
I saw you sign it, I
I thought I saw it in your hand when we were talking about it.
Oh, I got it. Oh, wait, I do have, Dan's right, he's pointing. Okay, I must have gone to the bathroom and, no, I did not sign it, but it's mixed in, it's right underneath the other one.
This is when you're taking a break and you had other things on your.
That's it, I walked out of the room, Dan puts it on my desk,
Yeah?
said, it's your fault, it's on your.
My fault.
Keep signing, I got a 10 o'clock meeting, I got.
Kurt is on.
That Shriner, you gotta watch that guy.
Gotta watch him.
I honestly, God.
Sneaky.
Kurt is trying to meeting, Kurt Johnson is trying to meeting.
Hi, Kurt.
Hello, Kurt.
Kurt, did you,
Good morning, how are you guys?
good.
Okay.
Were you here when we were discussing a little bit about the annex building? No. Or you
Well, I
just,
just came in at the end, but basically, when that building was given up by whatever the agency was on by the Mississippi there was a whole bunch of caveats that we had to meet through the healthcare center in order to take that building. So we've, I guess, concluded that it's our building. We offered it to the county like over a year ago or so, and they declined it. So we're just attempting to sell it, and whatever proceeds we feel would go into our coffers then.
That's basically what we're just trying to settle here, and I think you're right.
Okay, thank you.
I believe as far as, again, updating you on the committee discussion, I think the committee says leave the status quo as it is. So the committee is not in favor of acquiring the building, and the last update we had was that healthcare center was trying to sell it, and when you do, you should be able to keep the funds in order to recoup the maintenance costs that you put into it over the years. So if
Yeah, and it was actually, we had to improve the building quite a little bit when we took it over, so yes, that would be pretty much our thought too.
well, I'm in agreement with that. I think the committee is too.
Status quo then, is that what we're saying? Yep, okay.
Okay.
Agree with that? Everything okay with you then, Kurt?
Do we need a motion to that effect to make sure that?
I thought that's what
We did that before, I
we
think.
did that
Okay.
before already.
So then it should be,
We shouldn't be changing anything, so everything should be up to par?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was all done about probably a year and a half ago or so.
Right.
And I think that's all been done, so it should be pretty much in the minutes and should be done.
okay, sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, anything else? Now, what committee's meeting right now? Is the Building Oversight Committee actually meeting?
At 10:30.
10:30?
The one right now is like, it's like venture and stuff, they're going over
Okay,
the
'cause that's what I was
parking
gonna
lot
say.
plans, the building elevations and the finishes, that's what's happening in the Trempealeau room right now.
But
Who are they
members
talking
of
about?
the full Building Oversight Committee are not at that meeting, or are they?
No, they'll be here. They'll be
Okay,
right
they're
here.
gonna be here at
They'll
10:30. Okay, should we jump over,
Everyone's there.
put items for the next meeting and set the date, and then we can take a break until the building
That's fine.
annex, or till the Oversight Committee can come with us?
Chuck, what about number 10? Did they happen when I was in the bathroom too, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, we passed that.
What was it? What happened?
That was the one you just signed.
No, number 10, the amended
Yeah,
agenda.
we're on the amendment.
The department, number 11 on the amended agenda, department moves, meet with department heads.
Okay, we talked about that, and there was basically no update. They're having a big meeting tomorrow to kind of hash things out. They did their initial interviews with people, and now they're coming back and meeting tomorrow.
Okay,
They were hoping that they'd have something for today, but it didn't happen.
thank you.
Okay, we'll jump over 13, that Oversight Committee meeting. Anybody have anything that we should add, delete for our next meeting agenda? Is the memorabilia thing going to be a thing of the past by then?
Might as well leave it on there at least one more month so that if there's
Okay,
something to
just a
discuss.
second.
I mean, we're hoping that it won't be needed, I can just gloss over it, but.
Okay, 7 can be gone, we took care of that. 8 can be gone. Jeremy will stay, the x-ray machine will be gone. Department moves next month, we should have more information on that then.
I
So
would
that
think so.
should stay on. Annex building, I don't see any need to keep that on.
No.
This is okay. Should we probably meet with the Building Oversight Committee again next month?
Yes.
Okay, we'll keep that on then. Is there anybody, or does anyone have anything they feel need to be added to the agenda?
Well, what Tim had mentioned, getting something legal
Oh,
on the
with the
street.
street, yep,
Yeah, we
okay.
gotta get that done, and utilities as far as who's responsible for abandonment or.
Well, that business of abandoning, contract about abandoning the street, that we'll have to bring it up
Yeah.
today as a question.
Okay,
But
so we'll
that's-
bring it up,
I
to
see
talk
that
about
as a serious
street
topic.
closure, so we'll put that on the next meeting agenda.
Yeah, I would think that'd have to go through the property. And then, I don't know if we have to deal with, probably by next month, find out what the footprint is as far as starting to dig foundations, because then you gotta start changing your parking and stuff out here and get people kind of aware that some of this stuff isn't gonna happen. I don't know if we need to do that, or if Samuel's group will take care of that, or.
I don't know. We'll have to bring it up again.
Probably have to get a
All
bus
kinds of-
people in.
All kinds of accommodations
Yeah.
during construction. Every construction project is like that.
You have to buy a bus people in.
I don't know. I mean, remodel your bathroom and you're gonna have to make changes and
Yeah.
adapt, you know,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, anything specific to add, or do we need to wait? Should we wait with that yet?
Do we need to worry about the fire department thing yet, like for next meeting, or,
That's
you know,
probably
because by
gonna
then
be-
you'll talk to Rick
That should
and
be
That's
over.
probably gonna be,
That should be
that should be
That'll be
done,
all
because
over.
by our next meeting, the building will probably be torn down.
they'll
already.
probably be over with by then, so.
Anybody else think of anything we need to add? Okay, if not, then next meeting date, what do we want to do? We want,
Hey Chuck, could I just suggest one thing?
go ahead, Kurt.
When you get into renovating that old part of that old building over there, I can tell you, because I was kind of in charge of renovating our building up on top of the hill. These buildings are built like, and I mean, they're bigger and stronger than a brick shit house. I mean, they are unbelievably built. We had some walls that were 2 feet thick of cement. You may want to come up with a way to prioritize things, so if you start to run out of money, and I hate to say it that way, but you may want to come up with a way to prioritize what you do as a number one priority, number two, number three, so that if you get not enough money, then you know what you want to do yet, and you still can do that.
Okay, we have a group
Yeah.
that's actually
Right.
working with this,
Right.
that knows about the building. So when they decide to make a move, they probably are pretty knowledgeable of what's there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thanks for the offer, though.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Next meeting date, how do we want to handle that?
Do we want to do it before county board or after?
Okay, so the next, our April meeting for the county board is a day meeting,
20th.
the 20th.
We've been, our pattern has been to do it before to have the
Okay,
property committee meeting before the board meeting, so we can move things to the board if necessary. I
So
think we
that
should
would be
continue that.
Tuesday, the 20th would be the county board meeting.
So you're talking the 15th?
We want to go the Thursday before.
That'd be fine with me.
Yep.
So Tuesday, the 20th, or 6th, that's 16th, is that what it looks like?
15th.
15th. Tuesday, the 15th? Should we-
Thursday, the 15th was the
or
suggestion.
excuse me, Thursday, Thursday, the 15th.
Thursday, the 15th, I have a meeting with them from 8:30 until 4 with the
Okay,
same
so
group
that
to go
won't
over
work.
plumbing, fire, HVAC, electrical. That one, like today, I could break away, but that one I think is more
Yep.
gonna be involved for me.
What do you want to do?
Move it up a day?
Go to Wednesday?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Again at 9 o'clock, and then building oversight at 10:30?
Sounds good to me, too.
So you're on the 14th?
Yep.
Would it be better, because we've always had to wait for the oversight, would it be better to say 10 or 10:15?
Just on my notes of meetings here though too, just an FYI, you know, if it's not in front of you, the Oversight Committee is scheduled to meet Thursday, April 8th at 10:30. That would be the week prior to that meeting.
Well, we can certainly make the property committee just prior to that on the 8th.
You want to go?
It's not a problem for me. I live a block away.
Yeah.
But if you've got to
Well,
drive.
the date doesn't matter to me either. It's a little bit early, we're used to doing it, but, I mean, there's an actual, a logistical problem in getting everybody there for the building oversight committee. You've got a lot of heavy-duty people, you know, you're asking them to come in, and you're gonna ask them to come in another week later.
Yeah, 'cause-
I think it would be better if we moved.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as it sits now on this calendar, it's Thursday, April 8th, Oversight Committee, 10:30 to 11:30 as a virtual meeting. That's
So
what
you
it's
could
set
meet
up
at 9
as.
prior.
We could meet at 9 o'clock,
Right.
On the 8th?
On the 8th.
Tuesday, the 8th, 9 o'clock with our
Somebody's gonna
meeting.
quote me now, it's heavy-duty.
And then what was their meeting schedule
they
from?
are.
10:30?
10:30 to 11:30.
Yes.
Well, that's 10:30 is usually the building oversight, so yours should be at like 9 to 10:30 or something. If you want it prior. Similar to what you have today.
Yeah, I figured April 8th at 9, right?
Right, yeah. Does that work?
That's fine with me.
8th at 9.
Property at 9
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and oversight 10:30?
Well, their meeting is scheduled for 10:30.
They already have scheduled that, so we're
Yeah. Could we
accommodating
have them
them.
just come in at 10 just to update us? Or are they going to discuss stuff at their 10:30 meeting that we need to know about?
Well, if we have anything that we decide at the 9 o'clock meeting, we can't change it. We can still bring it up. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's a question.
But could we schedule our meeting with them sooner before their meeting is supposed to start? Or not? Or you still want to keep it at 10:30?
Well, they'll be in the building anyway unless they're having meetings. They could
Yeah.
probably stop and talk to us.
Depends on how
before
long,
they-
usually your meetings take about an hour.
About an hour, so if we scheduled it at 10, then when they get to their meeting, they could deal with their business.
Yeah,
You mean schedule your meeting at 10?
No, our meeting at 9, and then have the
have oversight.
oversight at 10 or 10:15.
Samuels and them come in at 10 o'clock just to talk to the property committee before they have their meeting.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, I
'cause-
see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if we schedule ours at 10:30, we're cutting into their meeting time.
Yeah.
And I don't think the whole oversight committee has to come to our meeting.
No,
It's something that Samuels could come and, so should we do that? Property at 9 and building oversight at 10?
Yeah.
That sound good with everybody?
I like that.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we'll have to wait now for some people. So Tuesday, April, what was it, 8th? 8th at 9 o'clock.
Thursday, April 8th at 9.
Or Thursday, April 8th at 9.
Break time?
Yep. I don't know, do we need to officially take a break or just let it go?
You go get something.
We'll call a meeting of the Building Oversight Committee to order, certify the open meeting law requirements have been met. And so I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Carlson, seconded by the judge, Your Honor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Agenda, there's 9-item agenda. So I want to make a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion made,
Second.
motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. So, we'll just go, we've had public comment before. Do we have to wait 2 minutes for that now, too?
I wouldn't.
I think what we'll do, just in the sake of time, if somebody wants to call in, they can call 715-538-1770. 538-1770. Otherwise, we're going to turn it over to Kurt for updates.
Morning, everyone. Want to give you a quick update of progress. I first got to turn this on.
Just put it, it'll go there time.
All right, that better?
Yep.
Give everybody a quick update of things that have been completed since the last time we met. We did have an asbestos survey done on the old building across the road. I was hoping to have the report in hand before the meeting today. I do not, but I did speak to the representative from the survey company. We do have some asbestos in the glazing over there, in some of the electrical fixtures. There's some caulking that has asbestos in it, and then there are some finishes on the walls. There is only a few of those items that would need to be abated before we would have the building demolished. And that would be the windows and the fixtures. I'm estimating that somewhere around $3,000 it will cost to abate, but we will get bids for that. So what we would do is, once we get the abatement or the asbestos report from the firm, we will then put it out for bids. We'll get multiple bids for the abatement of that asbestos. We will get that taken place, And while we're having that done, we'll also issue an RFP, request for proposal. We'll put out bid documents for contractors to bid on the demolition of that building. So the abatement will need to be done on part of the asbestos-related materials. Some of them are not friable, so they can actually go with the structure when they're demoed. So what we would need to do is bring back to the committee, and I don't know if it's this committee or the property committee, the bids for the demolition contractor. And I would anticipate that we would have that before the next scheduled meeting of when we would meet. I think probably 3 weeks we'll have that back to you.
I think we're scheduled for the 8th.
The 8th of April? Okay.
It was the same day you had a building oversight committee meeting.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we schedule our property meeting the same day, so
Okay.
your people don't
That
have to
should work.
come in.
We should have the bids back to you by then for the demolition, and then that demolition would take place. The early foundation package, we're targeting for later in April for the footing and foundation package to be on the street for the footings and foundations for the addition. That will, again, we will put out a bid document that will be a public bid. We'll bring bids in, and then we will bring those bids back for approval. And that, those bids, I would assume, would need to go before the property committee and then on to the county board, or have we decided how we want to do that?
We'll have exec finance first.
Exec finance? Okay. Would exec finance just approve the bids, or would?
Well, we would approve them and then move them on to the county board.
Okay, so they will have to go to the full county board. Okay. So the city utilities and the street discussion, there's been some preliminary meetings and correspondence with the engineers from Venture's team and with the engineers from the city. So we've started some of that dialogue with them in regards to the relocation of the utilities. What we were waiting on is we needed some additional information on the survey. So I had the surveyor get that information. We literally received it minutes ago. That needs to get back to Venture's team so that they can finalize the design to then in turn have a meeting with the city so we can formalize what the utility redesign looks like. And then upon the agreement or a final design of that, then we would move into the discussions with the city about acquisition of that street and also the closure of that street and what those utilities would be. Because we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the design, comfortable with the intent, and that's something that Corey and I, we know that's top on our list. We need to get that done here in the next couple of weeks, but we were waiting on a survey that we got today. So we'll be working on that to get that communication with the city.
One thing that did come up at the property committee meeting, and that is, are we going to have a written agreement? Because everything right now is hearsay of closing that street.
Yeah, I actually talked to Rick Niemeyer, and before we do anything in that street, we will have an agreement between the city and the county so that everybody is comfortable with the language there of the scope of work that's going to be done, and then the acquisition of the property, and then what is done after the utility work is done. Essentially, we're looking to relocate the utilities, have the city inspect that, and we will design it to their specifications, inspect it, and then when it is put it back into place in operation, we would want them to sign off on the install, and then we will deal with the acquisition of the street. So, okay, so what's happened since the last time we met is there's been a lot of design done by Venture. They've made a lot of progress on the design development phase of the project, which we started with the concept. We went to schematic, or we went to programming, then we went to schematic design, and now we're getting to the end of design development where we're starting to add in all of the infrastructure to the building, which is the mechanical, the electrical, the security electronics, all of those components. So they've been working their tails off to get that done by the end of March. And what we're targeting is that by the end of March, we have a sign-off, which is basically from the ownership group, from the teams that are looking at their systems and how we need the jail to function. Obviously, approval or agreement from the DOC so that we sign off and say we've got the design development phase done. And then they move into what's called construction documents. The construction documents are the bid documents. That's what's going to be ready to hit the street. And we're targeting that the balance of the bid documents would be ready sometime in July of this year. That's excluding the footings and foundation. So you're going to see this work in 2 phases. We're going to get a footing and foundation package ready that can be state approved and will be bid, and we'll start to work on the footing and foundation while we're finishing the design of the balance of the project. So you may ask, how are we going to do that from a budget perspective? We are updating the budget at the end of design development. My team is going to work in tandem with Venture, and we've been doing this back and forth, as well as letting the staff know when we get to something, this is a budget issue, this isn't a budget issue. It's a matter of managing that through the balance of this design phase. So you're going to see a lot of things that are running in tandem with one another, kind of adjacent to them, but that by July, when we have those bid documents out, then all of those bid categories would be bid out. In each one of those bid categories, we will get the multiple bidders and then bring that back to exec finance and then to the board. So, I'll stop and ask questions before I keep going. I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at everybody.
I'll just comment, Kurt, thank you. We did discuss the abandonment of the street at some length in property, so I'm glad you anticipated our concern, and you've scheduled you've laid out a schedule for it, so that, because I didn't realize that we are still operating under verbal agreement. And thanks for again, we also discussed the asbestos. Thank you for touching on the various aspects of that. If there is no abatement, if the abatement is completed relatively, do you anticipate seeing the demolition occur this month?
It won't be in March. Okay, if I have to bring you bids, if we bring you bids on April 8th, then we would start the demolition right after that.
Okay.
So the abatement will take place before that. And I guess I should ask that. Do we need to bring the abatement bids back, or should we just take the lowest qualified to get that abatement done? It's going to be about a $3,000 bid for the abatement.
Pass it off. Go ahead with it.
So what about you? Do you feel there's need to motion? I say it's part of the demolition.
Yep.
Take a little bit.
Yeah, just take the low bid, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and like I say, I'm anticipating it to be around $3,000, and then the abatement would be done. Then we would bring you that demo bid for you to look at that. What we're going to run into with the demolition, just so you know, and how we're going to have to vet those demolition bids, we get them in multiple delivery methods. Okay, so what some demolition contractors will do is they come in and they look at the structure as an opportunity to either recycle or take some of the materials and they'll sell it or salvage it or whatever. You as the owner, you don't care what they do with it as long as they're doing it with the applicable laws. We have all the language in our bid documents to make sure that they're doing the correct things. But we do need to vet them because we don't want somebody who's going to take a month of Sundays to get the building down. They need to come in and get the building down and get it out of here so we can get to work. If they want to get it to their property and then they decide they want to have people go through it with a fine-tooth comb to save this or that, we don't care. But I do want you to understand that we may run into identifying how they're going to go about it, and we will have a pre-bid meeting with them to explain to them what our intentions are, how we want them to be done, and then we will confirm that they get that demolition done in a timely fashion, because that will hold us up there.
Okay. I don't know if you're aware of this, but that building has a lot of memories for lots of people, because that's kind of what we're waiting for. We had told Jeremy that maybe we want to make the building available before you start demolition.
Sure.
If any of the local people would like to come in, there's not a lot of stuff there yet, but we give them the opportunity.
Okay.
That's not a problem with you?
No, we can carve out, a week's time. What I would like to do is identify that there's a time frame that they're going to get in and get out of there. I would prefer that it's done after the asbestos is abated.
Yeah, that's what we're
and then you
waiting
give
for.
them a week's time to get out. But when we get to the demolition portion, we're going to put a fence around it, and people aren't getting in there because there's safety and liability issues associated with that. So.
Now, when you're doing this demolition, I'm thinking that's going to cut off all the parking on the street.
No, I think, there's some of them we're going to want to fence off, but everything that's south of that building there, north of the building there, should be able to continue to function there, and then they can work from the block to be able to take that down. There's not going to be any blasting of any sort. They're probably going to come in with a large excavator and take the building down, is what I would anticipate. So.
Go ahead, Tim.
Another thing that came up this morning at property, which I'd like to bounce off of you or the building committee, was a request came to Jeremy from the Whitehall Fire Department to use the existing building as a for training.
Yep.
Jeremy, of course, Jeremy's relaying that message, but I'm really relaying it now to you. But to me, the important ideas were that they would not set any fires. I guess that was it. I guess they might
notifying the public.
Well, I brought it up, so we have to let the public know what's going on. But as far as the building committee, are there any reservations about letting the fire department use the building as a training? I guess this would have to come after any kind of memorabilia was, if you open it for a week for memorabilia, you have to close that and say, now you can do it. I don't know if maybe the scheduling might be a problem.
I guess just to clarify, so everyone understands, Jeremy and I had talked about this, and I know you talked to the property committee about it. The sequence would be, we get the asbestos abated, we then open it up for about a week's time for them to get out any memorable items they want to get out of the building. And then when we do have a demo date started, the weekend prior to that is when we would tell the fire department that they could do their work in there. And it's our understanding that they're just going to fill the building with smoke and use evac training for that building. We will communicate that to all of the demo contractors so they know what they're going to be anticipating, that they're not going to be burning the place down. They're basically going to be simulating a smoke and an evac potential, and we would do that the weekend before the demolition so that we don't have it sitting there, if they have holes on the perimeter of it, that it's not sitting there that way for an extended period of time. And we may even be able to put a fence up around it before the fire department does that. We could probably coordinate that, so then it is separated off a little bit. So, Jeremy, do you have a comment?
Well, and then for the memorabilia aspect, while it'd be open for a week, again, it was not my intention to let the general public through the building just for liability issues. It would still be my staff going through there, and I would be taking out woodwork, flooring. I'm still
we weren't
waiting.
going to just let somebody come in with a saw and hammer and start.
No, it would still be my staff doing it, with the exception of a few things up there that that I've talked to Mike Bigley about for the Whitehall schools, for anyone that might be interested in the scoreboards that are on the wall, any of that type of stuff. But again, it's not just an open free for all for anybody to come in with a sawzall and take what they want. So.
Sounds good. Anything else on the demo or asbestos? Any other questions on anything that I talked to before we get into the renovation portion of the project? Just to go along, we do have other meetings that, the balance of this month have some additional meetings in regards to the design side. They are starting to touch on some of the finishes discussion. We're doing that today. We have design meetings the balance of the day today. But then the renovation portion, since the last time we met, Venture did meet with all of the departments, kind of went through a programming session that identifies the current square footage, identifies the projected square footage for growth, and then did talk a little bit about what location those departments may move. No decisions have been made relative to that. But Venture is working on some options that they will then be put before the departments for discussion. And we're going to do our best to limit the arm wrestling for certain real estate. But the intent would be we would then bring that back to a standing committee, whether that's the property committee or exec finance or this building committee. But we want to have a committee make the decision on where those departments go. And we'll give the pros and cons of all of them. We're trying to find some areas in the building where we're giving it a facelift and an upgrade to finishes so that we're not doing a complete gut. And I think we do have some opportunities to do that, but there are some other areas where it is going to have to be quite a bit of renovation in order to make the departments work. So I would anticipate that layout and those options would come before you on the April 8th meeting, as well as the bids for the demolition contractors on the April 8th. So we're going to have some decisions to make on that April 8th meeting in regards to some of that progress that's going to need to be done. So
I've got to head out.
Okay.
Yep. Randy, can take over.
John, I think John's chairman now. Sure. I have one question there. When you consider renovations to the old building, are you operating under the assumption that the ADRC will come back into that building?
Yes.
I think we are all operating under that assumption.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest discussions is where does that want to go? And where do we put them with the least amount of renovation? And it's really a managing of adjacencies of departments. And that's one of the things that we're attempting to do through that process is to not only move them back into this space, but then move other departments so that we do get efficient flow between all of the different county departments. So.
It should be possible, because again, all these things are interrelated. The property committee had a question about the old annex building, a building the county owns you're probably not even aware of. And as far as what to do with it, and we've all been, what to do with that building, we thought that was decided about 2 years ago, but apparently it's come up again, and Mr. Chairman brought it up. But we are operating under the assumption that the ADRC will be able to fit into into the renovation without anybody getting short space.
Correct.
Okay.
That is the marching orders. Yep, that's what we're doing. Yep. Okay. So I've covered asbestos, I've covered the demolition, foundation package, the utilities. I think I've covered everything on the update. Didn't do it in 10 minutes like last time, but are there any other questions?
Any questions from the committee at all?
Is the committee?
One.
Go ahead.
When you decide to block the street off and start your foundations and stuff, you have any idea about what time frame you're looking at for that?
Well, if we bid out the footings and foundations in April, and we would start our foundation work on the new site, and our intentions are to start on the west end and then work towards the addition, we're probably looking sometime in June, if I had to give you a rough ballpark. I've got my team putting a detailed schedule together that will give you an exact date on that once we nail that down, but I would anticipate that street's probably going to be looking to close sometime in June. There's some things that kind of factor into that because there's an existing transformer that sits there. We need to figure out what that feeds. We also need to think about the infrastructure that's going to be in there related to getting those utilities relocated. But I would shoot for a June date. Yeah. 2021.
Just looking at the parking, there's a lot of vehicles that park out there. There's going to be enough room in the parking lot across the way there to everybody to park, or is this going to be an issue that?
That's good. It's a good question. We are going to lose, 40 stalls that we're going to lose there? I mean, we should be able to work around beyond June to get into the parking lot, the parking lot that's currently on this campus. Mm-hmm. I was just talking the street work to get the connection on that south end. So maybe we can work that lobby, because that lobby is what sticks out. We might be able to delay that a little bit longer so that we don't have as much of a parking issue. But we are going to have for probably 24 months, we're going to have a reduction in spots.
Yeah.
Now, I'll bring up to you, and I don't have a drawing here. I did talk briefly to Jeff Hauser. I don't know if he's on the call today, but when we get into the city discussions, because they're going to be redoing Hobson Street, which I think it's this calendar year, we would like to explore the option of adding angled parking across the street from the new addition to match what we have for angled parking that is on the east side of your campus, which is on the south side of Hobson Street there. What that would do is gain us some additional parking in the future to maximize, what we have there. Now, again, we need to take that before the city, but I think that would be good use of that space if that's being renovated. It would be an option. And it sounds like when I talked to Jeff, he said, let's have those discussions. So we'll have that review with the city when we talk to them, because I think that would, at the end of the day, you wouldn't lose any parking stalls with the addition. You'd be almost at a net wash with your parking stalls. But again, that doesn't solve it during construction. We are going to have an impact of that. So maybe all county staff just ride their bikes during the summer. snowmobiles in the winter.
Sheriff's deputies can go pick everybody up and bring them to work.
Yeah, right.
For a school bus.
I'm glad you volunteered.
Other questions?
This is Kurt Johnson. I do have one question. When they tore down the other part of the city building, was that hauled away or was some of that buried? And if it was buried, does that present a problem for you?
Well, when we did the borings, because we had 32 borings, 31 borings done, we did have several in that area, and we didn't hit any foundation material. It's my understanding that it was hauled away.
Okay.
But we will carry an allowance, and when we do that, we carry an allowance in our demolition package for unsuitable soils, that if we do hit some of that foundation work, it may need to get hauled away. But it's my understanding that it did get hauled away.
Any other questions?
I guess the question that I would have for the committee is, are we keeping you informed enough? Because I don't want you to ever feel like you're not informed. If there is ever any information that you need from any of the team members, please let us know, and we'll get you that. We don't have to wait for a meeting date. I want you guys to feel as though you can reach out to us and call me at any time, hey, what's going on here? Because I don't want you to feel uninformed, but there's also a lot of stuff that's going on in between our meetings that I don't want you to feel like we're not keeping the loop.
And I would just want to go above that. I know most of the committee have seen the plans, but like Kurt and Barb probably have not seen what we've done to date, and the property committee may not have as well. I've got 2 walls in my patrol room right now that are full of designs and pictures, and I would invite you all to come over and take a look just to see what we're at, or where we're at, and try to answer any questions you may have when you look at that. So just know that that's available if you ever want to see where we're at as far as progress and design.
I do want to, I'm glad you brought that up. I do want to compliment Venture, because last time I told you they were working on some reductions, and I want to compliment the staff because they did take some square footage out of the building. They were able to move things around. Everybody worked closely together. It was very impressive to see everybody work together and carve that space out of there. So I want to thank the design team and all the staff for doing it. It's been a good team effort. So
I have a follow-up then on that. I think it was a month or so ago, Venture presented to the board, to the full board, a big layout with 3 options. Are those 3 options for renovation of the old building? Are those options now been superseded by whatever the sheriff is talking about on
the sheriff was referencing the addition only. So what we did with the addition is when the addition had been identified as a square footage, because I gave the team a square footage to target, and then after we went through the programming and did the initial design, we got over the square footage, which obviously impacted budget. So I came back to the team and said, hey, we've got to cut some square footage out of there to get back within budget. So when the sheriff says what we've done to date, it's on the addition portion where we've tweaked. I don't believe we lost a single room, but rooms got smaller, rooms got moved. So what he's referencing is the addition. The renovation, there haven't been any floor plans that have been put together. The 3 options that that were showed to the board was just kind of a colored concept of where a department may go. There are no concepts designed yet for the renovation. That's what I would be bringing to you in April. So you'll see that at the committee level in April 8th.
Whenever, in terms of transparency, I think that's what the sheriff's talking about. Again, I think as often, or communication, whatever, as often as either committee makes some decision, it should go on the website. That whatever that, and so let the public know. I get everywhere I go, I get questions about what are you
The
doing?
only thing, I agree with you, Tim, and we need to be as transparent as possible, but there is an element of safety and security with the addition that I would pause to put the jail's floor plan on.
Just the offices. And all
Yes,
the rest.
there's just elements of that we just don't want to do. And I'm not doing that to be, secretive. It's just safety and security for the Justice Center itself. There needs to be some level of that for security. So, and I think that's why the sheriff's saying, come look in his office. We don't want you to feel like you're not able to see it. But there's an element that we've talked to our team members, and we don't want that to be a public document. So. I don't know, Sheriff, if you have anything to add to that, or?
No, I would agree, and so when I invite you to come and see it, I'll warn you ahead of time, I probably won't let you take any pictures of it, but you certainly can come and see it, because the property committee and the building committee is a very important part of this project, and I think you all need to see what's going on, so.
I can tell you right now that there isn't anything elaborative in the design. It's been very utilitarian, it's serving a function, it's meeting the needs, and then it's been a good process to work with the team, so.
No fountains?
No, we don't ever have any problems.
Flashing lights?
No, I will tell you that what I have observed with your staff, and I've worked with a lot of counties, is that we have topics that come up, but everybody has come to the table with ideas and being flexible with one another. And I can't thank people enough to make that happen, and how that makes a project a good, successful project. So I've been thankful for that. So.
Okay, any other questions? The next meeting is basically scheduled for April 8th, and this morning they talked by a property, they'd like us to meet at 10 instead of 10:30, because.
Okay.
Does that work?
Works for me.
No? I'm seeing a no back there?
Not for Judge Radke. He'll have to be in court.
10:30 work better?
We picked it based off of the court schedule, so it's up to you guys if he's not here.
Would 10:30 work for him?
That's what we have blocked off.
Okay, then we'll make it 10:30 then. Just, I think it's important that everybody's at the table. So let's, we'll keep it at 10:30. It's just, we could go a little longer with property, and sometimes, it was just done at 9 o'clock today, or 10 o'clock today, and we figure, well.
Chuck could bring coffee and cookies?
Bring more donuts, yeah.
Right.
No donuts,
So,
I mean.
anyway, leave it again at 10:30 on the 8th.
Since he's
Other than
not
that, I
here,
don't,
we'll
have unless
take
there's
it
some
by.
questions I'm missing, we'll have it at 10:30 on the 8th. I thank everybody for coming, and very informative.
All right, thank you.
We can adjourn at 11 o'clock.
Sheriff, I'll come and look at those plans.